You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
host of Locked On Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays, and you can email us anytime, lockedonrays@gmail.com. We do plan to be doing a mailbag episode again at some point, so send us in any of your questions or comments, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Ulises, today is a Friday, which means we're going to take a little breather from our player review series and have more of a traditional episode with some baseball trivia mixed in. And let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty, if you will. We put up what we think is a fun, interesting poll question to Rays fans. We posited, what is your top priority for the Rays to acquire this offseason? Is it A closer / high leverage guy? Is it B, a veteran fourth, fifth starter type? Or is it C, a right-handed power bat? And the results were interesting. About 51%, 50.7% call for the veteran fourth, fifth starter, 28.8% call for the right-handed power bat, and 20.5% call for the closer high leverage guy. Ulises, do you agree with Rays Nation out there, or do you have a different take as far as what the majority is calling for?
I disagree with the majority, but I definitely understand where they're coming from. They're coming from a recency, oh my goodness, what if we had a guy who could take the ball? Now, again, we didn't say a 1-2-3 starter for the rotation, which is what
we're
was
not
needed.
Talking Max Scherzer. We're not talking Robbie Ray. We're not talking Justin Verlander. We're probably not even talking Danny Duffy or Corey Kluber or somebody like that.
No. The poll question is like another Yarbrough type, a Michael Wacha type, even Michael Wacha. Like, that's the kind of pitcher that we meant when we said veteran fourth, fifth starter. I disagree. I don't think that's the Rays' biggest need. The Rays' biggest need is having somebody that you can give the ball in a close game in the 8th or 9th and say, close it out for me, or get out of this mess. If you're a Rays fan and you tell me right now that the Rays have that guy, you're lying. You're lying. Because who are those guys this season? Colin McHugh, free agent, and Andrew Kitridge, who had never performed like this in his career. So you know that relievers are volatile. Those two guys could easily have a down year next year. So who is that guy that you can trust and give the ball to? That Nick Anderson type, that Emilio Pagan, that Rodney, that Benoit, even a Kyle
Soriano.
There is not that guy yet right now at the bullpen, and you need to have that guy. You absolutely need to have it, and I don't see that right now as an option for the Rays in 2022.
I agree with you. And just how much more fun is it to have this is our 9th inning guy? And I know the Rays aren't necessarily about predetermined roles, but you made the point about Kitridge. It's not like Kitridge was totally that guy all the time. I mean, he was best when he was sort of kept off balance and used, all right, we're going to use you as an opener. Now we're going to use you in the 5th inning. We're going to use you in the 6th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning. Yeah, some 9th inning opportunities for sure, but it's not like, oh, he is our new closer now that Nick Anderson is out of the fold and Diego Castillo is no longer on the team. Like, here's the way I look at it, a couple different ways. I mean, if we look at this past season, the Rays had 12 walk-off losses. They were 7-12 in extra inning games, and they were 20-25 in one-run games. And I look at it like this too. Do we trust Pete Fairbanks to take that next step? do we trust JT Chagua to take that next step? I think I think a guy that brings some cachet. And this is going to be the guy I'm going to pound the table for throughout the offseason, I think, until he signs most likely elsewhere. Raisel Iglesias. That is the name I'm penciling, I'm circling, because that's your Soriano type. That's your Fernando Rodney type. And this is a guy who he was really good with the Angels this year, and he's been really good in his 6-7 year career, only 31 years old, and he is definitely in line for a multi-year deal, probably 3 years 25 mil, 3 years 30 mil, whatever it may be. But I think he'd even be better in a Rays uniform, considering the ballpark and the defense behind him and the catching group in front of him. Like we talk about the Angels, how bad they were defensively. One of the worst teams in baseball. The Rays, one of the best teams in baseball. So I feel like Iglesias would get a little bit of an added advantage. Not to mention, just you look at the numbers, you look at all the underlying stats. Like, this guy is legit. He's got one of the best swinging, all of his numbers are pretty much right at the elite level of, if you want a closer, this is the guy that you need to go after. He gets out lefties. He gets out righties. He's got, really 3-4 pitches, believe it or not. He's got the four-seam fastball that he rides 96, 98. He has the sinker. He has the slider. He has the changeup. Like, okay, the one maybe drawback for him is the home runs. He'll leave some cookies out over the middle of the plate, but you can live with that if you just look at all of the numbers that he put up this past season and over his career.
See, that's the thing. The money aspect, of course, is what I think will be the biggest flaw in your master plan here of us playing Neander. But I sometimes you've got to spend, and the Rays have shown a little bit more of an ability to spend since the Charlie Morton signed us. You went after Yoshi Tsutsugo. It didn't work out, but you went for it. Even you could even put Chris Archer on that. You gambled $6.5 million. It didn't work out, but you threw money at Chris Archer. Can you throw money at a guy who has shown to be an elite closer? And I know that closer is not a word that we have used a lot as Rays fans. That's okay. I don't want a ninth inning Aroldis Chapman kind of guy. Like that's his. I don't want the Rays to turn into a mainstream quote unquote team. With Raisel Iglesias, I don't want him to have ninth inning only, no matter what. I want him to. Can we change the wording closer to high leverage guy?
Sure. Because
that's what I want. I want a high leverage guy. If the game's 1-2 runs in the seventh and there's a walk by Pete Fairbanks and then a blooper and then men on first and second with no out, that's the moment I want to, okay, enough of that, and let's bring the high leverage guy in that we're paying $10 million for.
Game 4 ALDS, where the ball game was tied, and you bring in JT Chagua, and that's really the only option you can go to. I look at the poll question here and I see, veteran 4th, 5th starter. How does that really help you in the playoffs if and when you get there? And I feel like you can I wonder if 2022 is the time where the Rays say, okay, let's take the training wheels off Shane McClanahan. Let's take the training wheels off Shane Baz. Let's give Drew and Luis, let's push them a little bit more. And we can backfill that back end of the rotation with Yarbrough, with Dietrich Enns, with Jalen Beeks, with maybe
Josh Fleming.
Brendan McKay may be available for an opportunity. Second half of the season, Chirinos. So you have some options there for sure. It's just more fun to go after the high leverage guy. It'd be more fun. We're getting to an era where the bullpen is being used more than the starters.
So, or at least 50-50. Like, it's that close. So what's the edge that you'd want to have? And I love that you said 20 and 25 in one-run games. That's unacceptable for the type of game plan that the Rays tried to execute, which is, pitching and defense. Those are going to be close games. You can't be losing the close games. You can't, because even though we saw the best lineup that this franchise has ever had in 2021, you can't just like people say, well, the window of opportunity is open forever. It's not. Just like the lineup being so good, it's not going to be that good forever. So you have to play to your strengths. And I just want that guy that you can trust with 3 outs when you need him the most, when the game is close, 1 to 2 runs.
And that's what the Rays were kind of going after at the trade deadline. It ultimately didn't work out, but they were kicking the tires on Craig Kimbrell. Mm-hmm. They were talking about a unique trade that would have maybe involved Tyler Glasnow and or Kevin Kiermaier to try to, because they realized that we may have a need here that we need to fill up and shore up. We have some listener comments on the poll question that we'll get to after this. But first, Ulises, we have to enlighten the audience about Built Bars.
Well, I told you the other day, I love Thanksgiving. I love the good food and the treats. So why not still have a treat that doesn't make you feel guilty? Built Bar is exactly that. You can feast on something delicious and still feel good about it. A slice of pie is upwards of 300 calories. Built Bars are only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, and plenty of protein. And remember this, they're low calorie, they're low carb, they're low fat, high protein. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. So you all know what you have to do. You got to go to built.com. You choose your flavor boxes. And right before you hit that purchase button, you say, no, I do not get to do this yet. I haven't used the promo code. The promo code is LOCKED15, LOCKED15, and that will get you 15% off your order. So remember, go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15.
Okay, getting to some listener comments here. Ty McCann says he wants a veteran pitcher who can give the Rays 100-plus innings, even cooler if they can sport an ERA under 4.5. Rays Cast Brazil says our pitching staff deserves an improvement. The ALDS shows this to the world. Not complaining about the boys, but we must find a name to make the young guys get better than they already are. Joe Clark says, need to stop using the bullpen so much so we can have them fresh in the later part of the season. Look, I don't think that's necessarily changing. This might just continue to be 5 and dive territory. And we could say the Rays and other teams go with the concept of we're going to use 40 to 45 pitchers. We're going to call up names. We're going to promote names and do the Durham shuffle with guys you've never even heard of before. Scott Radigan says, I voted Power Bat. And then Caleb L29 says, we need a guy who can reliably go 6 innings a start. Our thin rotation really hurt us. So,
again, I think a lot of people are still looking at the postseason. I mean, I still am, and I know that you are still. So that's understandable. The comments are understandable. I just like what you said. How is a 4th, 5th starter going to help you in the playoffs? Maybe to cover innings and maybe to not put so much pressure on those young guns. Sure, I think to get to the regular season, but how do they actually improve the team in the playoffs? I would rather have a guy that I can trust to get me outs when I need him in the playoffs. Like that's you. People say, "Oh, well, you got to count outs." You definitely count outs in the postseason. And games that are going to be close, you need a guy you can trust. And right now, who is that guy? That guy does not exist in the Rays bullpen, Kevin. He just does not.
Yeah, they often say that the hardest outs to get are the last 3 outs. And it would be nice to have a guy that for years now, Raisel Iglesias, again, has consistently been put in difficult situations, has been put in high leverage situations, and has handled and gotten out of those high leverage situations. Pete Fairbanks, on occasion, but sometimes it's a coin flip. Same thing with JT Chiguah. Andrew Kitridge, yeah, all-star season, but can he replicate it? Or again, maybe he just best used kind of nosediving around in so many spots there. And I get the fungibility of relievers, but sometimes every so often, or there's a couple guys out there that they're going to be consistently good year in and year out. And I think Iglesias is one of those guys, like, a Josh Hader, for example, like a Craig Kimbrell, like an Aroldis Chapman, whatever it may be. Continuing on this conversation a little bit. So the Rays, it was recently reported that 7 players have officially become free agents on the Rays. Chris Archer, Nelson Cruz, Tommy Hunter. Forgot about that guy. Oh, yeah, he was on the roster. That was a weird trade. Colin McHugh, David Robertson, Chaz Rowe, Michael Wacha. Couple questions, Ulises. One, do you think, first question, do you think any of these guys will return? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so at least one of these guys will return. Okay. Who is the most likely to return then?
I would like that person to be David Robertson.
Okay.
I would like that person to be David Robertson. And I know that the argument that I'm going to make doesn't actually say that he had a good year, because if you look at his numbers, he had a career low whiff rate at 25.8%, a career low chase percentage, a career high chase contact percentage. So they were actually making contact while he was trying to chase. But there is one thing that I really, really like about what he had to do in those 12 innings. Third lowest career walk rate. Every time we talk about player reviews for relievers, we just say the negatives, walks. He doesn't have that problem. So I want a guy that doesn't make more of a mess than he needs to. And he keeps free base runners completely non-existent. Only 4 walks in those 12 innings that he works. So if I can see a bounce back year candidate, not at a high amount of money of an ask, because again, 12 innings of work in the regular season is not like he's going to command $12 million. So the price will be low. The high of a good comeback year is high. And yet again, he has been a dominating guy in the back end of a bullpen. Of a stadium that just throws stuff at players. He knows what it's like to be in those high leverage situations. I would really like to see David Robertson in a Rays uniform in 2022 again.
Yeah, I'm curious what's going to happen with him. I do think that the Rays could bring him back for sure, and he had 12 innings, 12 appearances. So it's like you maybe need to give him a little bit more time to settle in, because he didn't pitch in 2020. So maybe it's, all right, let's give him some time. Let's give him a full off season. He knows we want him back, and he's going to come back. And then he'll be, ready in full shape by 2022. And he has the experience. He has that veteran presence, that leadership. And I don't, you resign him. I don't know if he'd necessarily be you use him as the highest leverage of roles, but he's a quality bullpen arm that you could go to for sure. So I don't know that, he would have a bunch of other suitors. And I think that he might appreciate that the Rays took a chance on him, and he might, be willing to return and want to return. I think he's made enough money in his career for sure. So that certainly would not shock me. It wouldn't be the most, highlight worthy signing of, Rays bring back David Robertson. That's more of a footnote than a feature article there, but I like what you're thinking with that.
And that's okay. Joey Wendell was signed, was traded to the Rays the same day as Giancarlo Stanton, and there was a funny bit about how Wendell actually surpassed by WAR in those years to Stanton. But regardless, do you agree that one of those 7 will come back to the Rays? Is it maybe Archer on a minor leaguer, or do you think Cruz comes back?
I do think at least one of these guys does return, although people seem to think that many, if not all, are unlikely to return. But I'm going to go a little bit of a curveball here. I'm going to go with Colin McHugh.
Ooh.
Colin McHugh.
After that good of a year,
yes.
He's
And
going
here's
to
why.
keep with the Rays? Okay, why? Yeah.
Because, again, how much money do the Rays really have on the books?
Not a lot, Kev. Not a lot.
Not a lot. They're coming off a 100-win season. Are you still in a transition mode here? Or are you really kind of going to make a half-hearted push? You've already let guys go that have had success elsewhere and won elsewhere. Charlie Morton, Travis d'Arnaud, for example. I think that they are saying, okay, we have a good product here. This guy helped us win. Let's pony up a little bit. And I don't even think Colin McHugh, what's he going to get on the open market?
2-year 10.
That's not a whole lot of money. That's not
No.
a whole lot of money in the grand scheme of things. And you might even be able to up his innings a little bit. You might even be able to push him to 80. And I think, not saying Colin McHugh has made the most money in the world, but I think he's made, $16-17 million. He's from Georgia originally, maybe wants to stay settled in with his family. And I think he comes off to me as a guy and we don't really know what these guys are thinking or what these guys are all about, but that it's not, money is not the end all be all for him. I think he appreciates the fact that he not reinvented, but really had one of his best years with the Rays.
Yeah.
On a winning team. It's not, yes, it's fun to make money, but it's also fun to be the best you've ever been, really, and to be playing on a really good playoff contender. I think that adds a little bit of value. So I say, if another team offers 12 or 13 and the Rays offer 10 or 11, he might stick with the Rays for 10 or 11.
I don't think that Colin McHugh is the kind of guy that would get an offer like 2 years, 2 year for 10 mil for the Rays to play for the Rays, and he gets a 2-year 16 mil to play in Colorado, and then he goes, okay, I'm going to be a Rocky. Like he doesn't seem like that guy, and it goes to the same effect of when you're a veteran and you've made your money, like. Right. I mean, you just want that ring, right? You want that ring. And I know he has one, but it's a lot cooler if you have two than just one on the thumb. It's better to have those two. So I think with older players, you got to look at the money aspect, but the winning. I mean, it's the Joe Madden steps of, do I even belong here? Step number 1 to the last one. I want to win. And I think that's where Colin McHugh is.
I agree. Like if the Mets are offering him $15-16 million and the Rays are offering 10 or 11, I mean, just by taxes alone, it might make more sense to just stay in St. Petersburg for all it's worth. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with all that. Okay, baseball trivia and Name That War coming up next. But first, we've got to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is back and better than ever before. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. So head over to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, to receive that bonus, LOCKEDON. BetOnline, it is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, and it's where the game starts. Okay, Ulises, baseball trivia time. You'll give me some trivia, and I will give you a Name That War, and we'll see how we do. What do you got?
Well, as the baseball world now knows and found out, a certainly talented catcher hung his spikes and is retiring. There are 19 catchers in the Hall of Fame. 19. Okay. Kevin, can you name 7 of these 19 catchers in the Hall of Fame?
7 of the 19. I can give it a shot. Yogi Berra.
Correct.
Pudge Rodriguez.
Correct.
Mike Piazza.
That's 3. Correct.
Ella.
That's correct. That's 4.
Thank you. Johnny Bench.
Correct. That's 5. 2 more to go. Kevin.
Okay. Gary Carter.
That's correct. That's number 6. Does he have one more, people?
Number 7 or 7 would be, oh my gosh, I will say Carlton Fisk.
He got it right, fellas. He got it. 7. He got 7. Wow.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Really great job, Kevin. The other one that I thought you might get is Ted Simmons, who just got inducted a couple years ago. The rest are black and white pictures with names like Ernie Lombardi, Biz Mackey, Gabi Hartnett, Mickey Cochrane, and Buck Ewing. So
okay, would not have gotten any of those, and I also would not have gotten Ted Simmons for the record either.
You got them all, baby.
Okay, name that war. Ulises, a little trivia question for you. Of course, the Atlanta Braves won the World Series earlier this week. Do you know the last time that the Braves won the World Series prior to this year?
1995. I was 4 years old.
That is correct. And there's a player on that 1995 roster that I want you to guess his career WAR, and his name is David Justice. What is David Justice's career WAR? You thought I was going to go with Chipper Jones or John Smoltz or somebody like that, didn't you?
That was a first pitch changeup by the great Greg Maddux right there.
Pitching backwards.
Pitching backwards, baby. The professor. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to do some math, professor, here, and do some math. David Justice. By 2002, he was a veteran, as we know from Moneyball. So I think he only had like 2 more years to go. Let's say 2005. In 95, he was already established. So you got to go with like a 15-year career for David Justice. 15 years. And you have to think he had like a 5-year period where he was just mashing. 5 times 5 is 25. So what happened to the rest of the 10 years? If the average is 2 WAR times 10, that's 20 plus the 25 would be 45, but that seems too high. So I'm going to go with 38.
You are very, very close. I will give you one more guess.
36.
Selling him short. 40.6 is David Justice's career
I went the
WAR.
other way.
Yes. He had a really, really good career, of course. 305 home runs, 279 career batting average, 878 career OPS, 129 OPS plus, 378 on base percentage. He was a Rookie of the Year, 2-time World Series champ, ALCS MVP, 3-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger. I think he might have gotten overshadowed a little bit because he did play in the steroid era where you had guys that were hitting 50, 60, 70 home runs instead of Justice, who consistently hit like 22 to 30 year in and year out.
Is he a McGriff for you? Like a Fred McGriff type? Where because of the era that he played in, he kind of got dogged, but you take him out and he would have probably been top of the league.
Yes, although I think McGriff was even a step or 2 above David Justice, but pretty close there. But hey, very good guess on the Name That WAR. All right, that is our Friday show. We will be back next week. Thank you again for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Have a great day, and we will talk to you next week.